An anthology of the bad, the short-lived, and the forgotten shows and events from television history. You are listening to It Was a Thing on TV.
Episode 506, submission number 1476, Blackout. Blackout aired on the CBS television network weekday mornings from January 4th, 1988 to April 1st, 1988 for 13 weeks of 65 episodes.
So I said, listen, honey, it's 50-50. You get the Mercedes, but I get the masseuse. It's like my guru says, we're all children of the universe. Please. Anyway, my body's a temple, as you can see. It's what happens when a profoundly deep human being such as us self-esteem, but on the other hand, I'm no Sigourney Weaver either.
Wouldn't it be nice if everyone had a blackout button? Well, today, Night Court's Marky Post and her contestant partner, Denise Walker, and Charles Siebert, and his contestant partner, Jan Ramsden, all have blackout buttons. Right here on Blackout! And now, here is the host of Blackout, Bob Cohen.
Whoa, good crowd. Very good crowd. Hey, thank you very much, and welcome to Blackout.
We are once again diving into the storied catalog of the undisputed king of the cult classic game show, former Jeopardy player, and the man who brought Pirates of the Caribbean to the big screen, Jay Wolpert.
Yeah, it's thanks to Jay Wolpert that we indirectly have that Lonely Island song about Captain Jack Sparrow sung by Michael Bolton.
And it's also because of Jay Wolpert that we have such cult classics as previous entries Double Dare and Pew. Oh yeah, and also Hitman. So in 1986, Jay Wolpert created this word game of a different sort, which basically has people describing persons, places, things, ideas, whatever, what have you. And then their opponents censoring all of the good bits. In fact, the original pilot, if memory serves, was in 1986, and it would be on the back burner until late 1987 when CBS decided to buy into it. That pilot was hosted by somebody who had a steady gig, Rob Weller of Entertainment Tonight. The pilot played more or less like the series would. We have two teams, one celebrity and one civilian. One is the champion, the other is the challenger, and they all have blackout buttons. We'll get to why they all have blackout buttons momentarily. But first, here's how we play the game. Each game is a bad pun with 4 words missing from it, including the punchline. It takes 2 of those games to win a match and a chance at $10,000 in the clue screen round. So how do we get to all of these words? One player is isolated by having his seat move forward and wearing snazzy headphones with music coming out of them, so they'd be out of sight and out of hearing. Their partner will describe in 20 seconds, to the best of their ability, a key word. It's important that they do not repeat any key words, otherwise they will incur a penalty, which I will explain. Once the player who is isolated comes back in play, they're going to hear the recorded description given by their partner, with one hitch. Their opponent has a plunger called a blackout button, and they will be given 7 seconds to mute or black out any text that they believe would help their partner get the key word. If the person describing repeats or gives too much information, they are given a penalty of 1 additional second of blackout time to their opponent for each fault. The results are a little bit accidentally humorous. If their partner correctly identifies the word, they get $100 and a crack at solving the pun. For example, I pulled this one up from a still at fandom.com. At the blank party in space, Mr. Spock showed up in his blank suit holding a blank. Blank to me, he said. The teammates will have 5 seconds to confer and try and suss out what the joke is. In this particular case, we have the words birthday, drink, and cast. In this particular case, it would be at the cast party in space, Mr. Spock showed up in his birthday suit holding a drink. Ears to me, he said. Yes, folks, they're really that bad.
No wonder this show lasted 13 weeks.
Everybody keeps whatever money they win, but it takes 2 correct puzzle solves to win the match and a chance at $10,000 in the clue screen. If both teams end up getting 1 puzzle, we go into a tiebreaker situation. The partners of both players would be required to put on their headphones as their seats slid outward, and the home viewers will get to see what words were about to be described. The objective was to successfully convey 1 more word to their partner while the opponent tried to black it out 1 more time, which I'm guessing was to speed up the action because in the pilot they just played another puzzle. The champion would go on to play the clue screen round for $10,000. In this round, 1 member of the winning team faced the clue screen while their partner had their back turned, and the player facing the screen was shown a category and saw up to 6 clues, with 1 appearing every 2 seconds. Not only that, the giver was also shown the answer to the puzzle to get an idea of how many clues to be revealed. When they judged that there was enough information for a solve, they'd say, solve it, freezing the remaining clues and signaling the partner to turn around, take a look at the clue screen, and give 1 guess, or pass if they're taking too long. Each correct answer is worth $250, and if they could solve 5 puzzles within 70 seconds, or 75 in the pilot, they win $10,000. Players remained on the show until they were defeated or they won 5 games. Although the network's winnings limit was $75,000 at the time the show was filmed, and the maximum amount a contestant could win was $54,000. Now, the host. A man who was in between gigs. He was in between the Home Shopping Game and Wheel of Fortune. He was a man in his epic mustache era, Bob Goen.
I think around this time he would have hosted that game show episode of Perfect Strangers.
Actually, I think that would be like a year or 2 removed from that game show episode of Perfect Strangers, because if you remember, that episode used many of the sets, props, and branding of Funhouse.
Oh, that is true, yeah.
The answer to your question, it aired on February 3rd, 1989, Season 4, Episode 13.
So that's about right. 1 year, give or take. Because Blackout aired before Funhouse premiered.
When did Funhouse premiere?
Fall of 88.
Yeah, that's what I figured. And as we've established on this podcast, don't even bring up Fox's Funhouse in Mike's presence. Don't bring it up.
It's not a good memory.
No.
I mean, it was an update. It was a decent enough update. Problem is, they got rid of Tiny.
Yeah. let's get into the reason why we're doing this episode. We got to get into the celebrity panelists for the 13 weeks, the 13 glorious weeks that this show was on the air on CBS.
January 4th through 8th, week 1. The two celebrities that participated in the pilot from 1986. That would be Night Court's Marky Post and Trapper John's Charlie Siebert.
Although Trapper John MD would have been done by this point in 88.
Oh, it would have been long since done. Week 2. Ann Bloom from Not Necessarily the News and Stephen First from Saying Elsewhere.
Yeah, Seen Elsewhere. It'd be its last season, so we're nearing the point of Tommy Westfall.
Week 3. From Mr. Belvedere, Eileen Graff. And from Every Game Show Ever, Jamie Farr.
Well, in 1988, Jamie Farr would have been doing those IBM commercials with the rest of the cast of MASH. You remember those IBM commercials?
You know who I don't remember?
Who?
McLean Stevenson on one of them.
Oh, yeah, because he would have been killed and shot down over the Sea of Japan. Remember, there were no survivors.
He was also too busy doing Dirty Dancing at that time, probably.
Oh, yeah, Future Entry, the TV adaptation of Dirty Dancing.
Week 4. From Night Court, Marshall Warfield. And from Dallas, Ken Kercheval. Now that I look at the first 4 weeks of shows, I have to wonder, were these the people who were lined up to do the next run of Pyramid before it got canceled?
Probably.
Especially when I look at week 5, we have from Hotel, Heidi Bohey, and from It's a Living, Paul Kreppel. Week 6, legendary comedians, Phyllis Diller and Charles Nelson Riley.
I will say this. Definitely that week on Blackout. Hilarity ensued.
Week 7, Dobie Gillis himself, Dwayne Hickman, and Connie Stevens. Week 8, Teresa Ganzel and Soupy Sales.
Now hold up a second. Do you think during that week of Blackout, Soupy Sales mentioned to Bob Gowen about this great takeout business he started in Philadelphia?
You'd have to ask Buddy Hackett about it first. Because, they're partners, you see.
Oh, yeah, they're definitely partners in a business that really has no customers. I wonder why he doesn't have any customers.
I don't know. Let's ask him.
Lack of advertising.
Well, you know what? I'll say this. The Philadelphia Phillies, they're definitely going to be taken to that takeout business very soon after the performance they put up against the Mets.
I know you just didn't suggest that the Phillies were about to get whacked.
Let me just say this. 5 through 9 in the lineup are definitely going to get whacked.
Well, at least somebody got a hit this week in Philly.
Oh, but week 9, February 29th through March 4th, 1988.
I wonder if this was their tie-in to the Winter Olympics, because we have Jess Walton and Scott Hamilton. Everybody knows who Scott Hamilton is. Who the France is Jess Walton?
Wikipedia says she was on Capital, but also she played Jill Abbott on The Young and the Restless.
Oh, okay.
So she's somebody from your stories.
But I also think Scott Hamilton's kind of a subtle plug, because who's getting the Winter Olympics in 4 years? CBS.
Well, I actually think it goes back to what you guys said about the first month, where you said maybe these are the celebrities for the final whatever of Pyramid. They're supposed to be the bookings for Pyramid in early January of 88. Scott Hamilton made a number of appearances on Pyramid, especially the $100,000 Pyramid I remember back 85, 86, 87-ish.
Week 10, we got a good week for celebrities.
One of the fastest talkers in the game and also one of the slowest. The future Aunt Viv II, Daphne Maxwell Reed, and Tom Poston.
Could you imagine him trying to figure out the clues? Tom Poston.
Well, I'm supposed to look at the screen and
I'm supposed to look at the screen, guys? Oh, no!
It
All
does
right.
look like 2 episodes from that week are out there.
Oh, good. We could do a live watch of one of them.
You're about a live watch. I'm going to check it out right now.
Oh, good.
Nice.
This will be stellar entertainment if we can get a soundbite out of this. But of course, Daphne Maxwell Reed would have been on promoting Frank's Place. And speaking of entertainment tonight, we found out, thanks to Mike, that it was John Tesh's favorite show.
Yeah, I did mention that a while ago, didn't I?
Yep. Oh, but week 11.
Oh, Beauty and Brains. Actress and model Shelley Smith, and actor and comedian Fred Travellina.
So you know Fred definitely that week did like 1 million voice impressions that entire week and brought the house down.
Week 12. From Dynasty, Emma Sams, and from Night Court, Harry Anderson. Before then, we had Johnny Gilbert as your announcer, but he took ill, and Jay Stewart landed the role on a permanent basis for the remainder of the run.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Now I got a question, Chico. Was your sister excited Emma Sams was on this week?
Yes, she was. I was more excited for Harry Anderson.
I'm sure Mike was more excited for Harry Anderson. Right?
He's speechless.
Wait, I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention because I was actually watching an episode of Blackout with Tom Poston.
Oh, was he in a coma?
Ask your question first, then I'll answer yours.
Okay, Mike, were you excited that Harry Anderson was on this week with Emma Sams?
Given Cleveland didn't even get the show?
Oh.
Okay, so now the details you want. Tom Poston, oh my gosh, he goes at such a slow pace. Basically, in the 7 seconds of blackout time, he gets all his audio blacked out.
Oh my god! This has got to be the end of the show.
Not even joking there. I don't know how the episode ends because only like the first 15 minutes of the show is uploaded to YouTube. But his partner, when she was giving clues, she did maybe something worse than Tom Poston going really slow in the left-hand fast lane. She actually used the word that she was describing as a clue. And so, no good. The round ends right there, and the control and the word goes to the other team. So Tom Poston was a victim, but also he was, I want to say a perpetrator, but yeah, he went very slowly, very leisurely.
And then we have the final week, which is the week I know Greg was looking forward to covering. On one side, we have from One Day at a Time, Pat Harrington. And on the other side, we have from It's a Living, Crystal Bernard.
And you know what that means, guys? If this was like 7 or 8 years later, you know what she'd probably say to Bob Goen? I want to see Rand.
I want to see Rand.
Greg, you're so close, but so far away. You know why she actually was on Blackout this week?
Why was she on Blackout this week?
She was trying to get some money because she wanted to see Rent.
Oh, she wanted to make the Rent because she wanted to see Rent.
I want to see Rand.
But you know what, guys? When you're trying to make the Rent, It's a Living.
No! No! Get off of this call right now. You are banned for the next 2 weeks. No! Bad!
Greg, are you trying to pitch a reboot with that joke or something?
You know what? We should pitch an It's a Living reboot.
I gotta give Greg credit there. He thought that joke had wings. Okay, now I'm banning myself. I'm sorry. I'm so mad at myself for that.
Now, guys, seriously, I have to mention, it is now 206 episodes. Since for the first time I mentioned on this podcast in episode 300 that I mentioned that I loved wings.
And if somebody hasn't listened to any episode before 300, they don't get the joke.
Yeah, because you'll never find a reference that said I loved wings before episode 300. You'll never find it.
And do you know why he loves wings, people?
It made Tony Shalhoub's career.
That was the run of Blackout, a game show that was basically born of necessity. Because if you look at the schedule on daytime in fall of 87, it was basically NBC all day. You started out with Sale of the Century, then you get into Classic Concentration, and then Wheel of Fortune, then Win, Lose, or Draw, and then, as long as you don't have the news at the noon hour, you got Super Password, and you got Scrabble. Not a stinker among the bunch. Then you look at the CBS schedule, which in the fall of 87 began with what would be the fifth and final of the $25,000 pyramid, then season 2 of Card Sharks, and then The Price is Right. ABC's doing reruns of the home show. We're not even going to talk about that.
Because let's be honest, who cares?
Sale of the Century kicked off what had to be the strongest lineup of game shows in the 1980s. Never mind the fact that NBC was pretty much the strongest network at that time. $25,000 pyramid, I want to say it was still doing rather well. They needed to freshen up the lineup. So, after 5 seasons, the pyramid got its walking papers. Meanwhile, CBS was getting ready to reboot Family Feud, but it was not quite ready yet. So, Blackout was ordered as sort of a pinch hitter. It was a game born of necessity, I'd like to say. Blackout never beat Sale of the Century, and it never got as high a rating as the $25,000 pyramid. The letters to the network were pouring in. After the 13-week order, CBS was more than content to just let it go. And what did CBS bring back to fill in that hole before Family Feud premiered that July? The final 13 weeks of the $25,000 pyramid.
What?
Making game show history, albeit accidentally, as Blackout became the first and so far the only game show in history to be replaced by the show that it replaced. Rob Weller, he would still have Entertainment Tonight. Bob Goen would also have Entertainment Tonight. And of course, he would also host Wheel of Fortune, among other things. He's still doing his thing on the road. And if I'm not mistaken, on the radio with his wife, Marianne.
By the way, as we're recording this, speaking of Entertainment Tonight, we got Padres-Dodgers Game 5 going on. So you know what that means. Merry hearts behind home plate.
Rob Weller did go on to host Win, Lose, or Draw after Burt Convey left in the final season to produce and host Third Degree.
But Blackout, we had it for 13 weeks. Well, we did get Tom Poston for a week. That's good. We got Bob Goen for 13 weeks. That's good.
We got Jay Wolpert's wife ushering in the show.
Yeah, we did.
The voice of the lady whose voice is blacked out at the opening is Jay Wolpert's wife. Believe it or not, a clip of the pilot actually made an appearance somewhere.
It did?
Yes. A brief clip could be seen in the opening credits of the 1994 ABC miniseries Stephen King's The Stand.
Oh, The Stand from Stephen King. Who's in that? Oh, Gary Sinise, Molly Ringwald, and Rob Lowe are in this. Corey Nimick is in this too. And, hold on a second, somebody who we're going to be talking about in probably another month or two. Matt Frewer.
Gary Sinise, wow. That would have been right before he kind of hit it big with Forrest Gump.
Yeah, it was the same year as Forrest Gump 2, 94.
Yeah, but I'm sure that was a summer release, and The Stand was probably before that.
Unfortunately, he probably didn't need any ice cream. Lieutenant Dan ice cream.
This show actually also saw life overseas. There was a Spanish version, a Dutch version, a Belgian version, and there was a show adapted in the UK with Sue Pollard and her incredibly loud dresses hosting called Take the Plunge. It eliminated the joke element but kept the word game intact. It only lasted 10 episodes.
Oh.
There was no home game, there was no reruns. The show was basically kept alive via the trading circuit in the late 90s to the early aughts until the advent of YouTube, which managed to capture all of the episodes that were ever recorded onto VHS. So if you ever want to relive the Halcyon days of 1988 on CBS weekday mornings, they're right there waiting for you.
But in the end, Blackout in 1988 replaced Pyramid and was replaced by Pyramid. And unfortunately, it just became a thing on TV.
You can find us at our website, itwasthathingontv.com, on Facebook at It Was a Thing on TV Podcast, and elsewhere at It Was a Thing on TV. You can find us on any podcast player, and we're also on YouTube, where you can subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with our releases, including what's coming up next time. We're going to talk about one of the 50 worst shows of all time, according to TV Guide. I think we've talked about the other 49 at this point. Well, maybe not all 49, but we've talked about a few. But this one, guys, I'm going to take this one very seriously. We're not going to monkey around.
Oh, no. Mike, you're this close from going bananas.
Hold on. I don't see Dom DeLuise anywhere.
We're going to talk about a show that, I don't think anybody's career got hurt in it, but, well, if you've got this show on your resume, I'm sure that job offers weren't necessarily rolling in. And we'll see if this really is bad. We absolved the Ropers last week. We said that the Ropers is definitely not one of the 50 worst shows of all time. It was actually very decent. Maybe a bit derivative, maybe a bit repetitive. This just looks stupid. But we'll see if judging a book by its cover and saying it's stupid is a worthwhile thing next week right here at It Was a Thing on TV. Thank you very much for listening. So swing back here Monday for that episode.
Wow!
This time we're going to start with Tom. Tom, you'll describe one of the words that's missing in the puzzle for 20 seconds, and we will record what you're saying. Mona won't be able to hear that description the first time around because she'll be wearing headsets that are filled with music. So remember, as you're doing the describing, try not to repeat an important word related to the word you're describing.
I'm not trying to fool her, am I?
Oh, no, not a bit. Okay, let's put the headsets on, Mona. Don't want you to hear this description that starts at the sound of the bell.
There's one kind that's called a teddy. You may have heard about the bulls and this on Wall Street. They have a lot of fur. They have round ears. They're brown. They could be black. They're big, four-legged.
Time is up. Now we play back the description of what Tom just said, except for that little wrinkle that is world-renowned as the blackout button. And Daphne, with that button, you can censor up to 7 seconds of Tom's speech to Mona. Let's see what happens when we play it back.
There's teddy. You may have heard about the bull. They have a lot of round ears. Could be black, four-legged.
Good blacking out, Daphne. Nice job. Let's see if you stopped Mona. She's shaking her head. I think you may have.
I heard bull, so I'm assuming it's bull and, I don't know, matador?
No.